What is up, Tube users, and welcome to another installment of Overwatch 2 Heroes, an in-depth guide. Today, we are going to be talking about another support hero and my personal favorite, Ana. Ana's primary fire for Biotic Rifle is a projectile-based shot that deals 75 damage over half a second to enemies, and 75 healing over half a second when shot at allies. An interesting thing to note is that the projectile can turn into a hit scan when she's using her alternate fire to scope in. Ana does receive a 65% movement speed penalty when scoped in. After each shot, it takes about 0.8 seconds to recover and shoot again. Unfortunately, Ana's biotic rifle cannot headshot enemies or allies, so her damage for each is always 75. Now that we've gone over the basics of her primary fire, let's move on to the more fun parts of her kit. Ana's first ability is Sleep Dart. This is a projectile shot that deals 5 damage to the target and puts them to sleep for a maximum of 5 seconds. If the target takes any damage, they are woken up prematurely with a 0.5 second recovery time. Tanks that are shot with this ability will only be slept for a maximum of 3.5 seconds. There's a small cast time for this ability of 0.3 seconds with an additional 0.67 seconds of recovery time. The shot for Sleep Dart is a pinpoint shot. However, with the 0.3 second cast time, it can be difficult to land a successful Sleep Dart on an enemy, which just makes landing one all the more satisfying. Although Sleep Dart is a great tool for keeping enemies CC'd, her second ability is much more versatile, providing both offensive and defensive capabilities. Ana's second ability is Biotic Grenade. This is a thrown projectile that deals 60 damage to enemies with a splash radius of 4 meters and heals allies for 60 if they are within the 4 meters as well. Enemies that are hit with the grenade will also receive an anti-heal debuff that doesn't allow them to be healed for 3.5 seconds. Allies, on the other hand, receive a healing buff that increases healing received by 50% for 3.5 seconds. Both of these buffs and debuffs are indicated on targets by color. Yellow means the target has received the healing buff, and purple means the target has received the anti-healing debuff. It's also worth mentioning that this can be used at Ana's feet to provide herself with some self-healing and the healing buff. Another interesting thing to note is shield regeneration is treated as a form of healing, so allies with shields will recover them 50% faster, and enemies won't be able to recover shields until the effect expires. While most of Ana's kit allows her to be self-sufficient at protecting her team and fending off enemies, her ultimate does require some coordination with teammates. Ana's ultimate ability is Nano Boost. This is a targeted ability that gives an allied target a 50% damage buff and 50% damage reduction. It also heals the target for 200 HP. This effect lasts for 8 seconds. Since it's a targeted ability, Nano Boost can be used through barriers and cannot be deflected or absorbed by any other abilities. It's also worth noting that the damage reduction is capped at 50%, so any other characters with damage reduction abilities won't increase their damage reduction if they are nano boosted. This ultimate usually requires some coordination with teammates to be used effectively. Typically, it's best to pair this ultimate with another teammate's ultimate to get the best value out of it. I've made here a general list of heroes whose ultimate abilities would pair well with a Nano Boost. Keep in mind, this list is only about pairing Nano Boost with other heroes' ultimates. Typically, pairing Nano with another hero's ultimate is the optimal way to go, but just giving a Nano Boost to an ally can be just as effective. This next tier list I made shows which hero's Nano Boost is good for even without their ultimate. There are some differences when it comes to using Nano Boost on heroes with or without their ultimate, but a good general rule is Nano Boost is typically best for tanks and dive DPS who are pressuring backlines. Now with her abilities out of the way, let's talk about counters for and against Ana. Ana plays really well against heroes with larger hitboxes and low mobility that rely on self-healing. Roadhog is a great example of a hero that Ana counters. With his large hitbox and no protective barrier, landing shots from her biotic rifle and sleep dart are fairly easy for Ana. Plus, her anti-heal from her biotic grenade effectively nullifies Roadhog's self-heal. Another hero Ana plays well against is Bastion. Again, because Bastion has a larger hitbox than most DPS, he's more susceptible to damaging shots from Ana and sleep darts. And because he's a DPS hero, the sleep dart's effectiveness can last on him for the entire 5 seconds. One final hero Ana plays well against is Zenyatta. Zen is typically played at range where Ana excels at. Because of Ana's hit scan when scoped in and self-healing from her biotic grenade, she can effectively outduel an enemy Zenyatta most of the time. Now, let's take a look at heroes that effectively counter Ana. Ana is pretty susceptible to dive heroes because of her limited mobility and most of her kit revolving around being at range. Although this may be the case, not all dive heroes are good against Ana. One hero that breaks this mold is Zarya. While not a dive hero, Zarya is great against an enemy Ana by using her bubble to cleanse anti-heal and close the distance on her. And once in range, there's pretty much nothing Ana can do to escape Zarya. Another hero that does well against Ana is Sombra. With her invisibility being able to sneak around enemy backlines, Sombra can be a menace to surprising Ana and taking her out. Lastly, another hero that plays well against Ana is Kiriko. Kiriko does an excellent job of being able to pressure Ana from afar with her fast-moving projectile kunais, plus with her AoE cleanse ability allowing her to cancel Ana's anti-heal grenade and sleep dart abilities. Now, with the counters out of the way, let's dive into some tips and tricks for Ana. There are 3 main ways to use Ana's biotic rifle. You can use it for no scopes, which is projectile based and really only useful at close range. You can scope in, which provides a hit scan projectile and is a slightly larger radius for healing allies. And then you have your quick scope shots, which count as hit scan and can be really effective when you need to hit a target quickly without having to fully scope in. Another thing I mentioned that I think needs a bit more context is when scoped in, Ana's biotic rifle will heal in a slightly larger radius. As you can see when scoped in, there's a shape, depending on which scope you're using, around the center of the reticle. Allies that are within that shape will receive healing, so you don't need to be as accurate. Another tip I have is if you sleep a target, make sure you ping them. Ana can take out most sleeping targets by herself, but it will always be better to have backup in case you can't. As for Ana's biotic grenade, I would say it's most important to try and keep the anti-heal onto tanks. Most of the other times, supports on the other team will try and focus on their tank, so not allowing them to heal their tank is super important. That's all the tips and tricks I have for Ana. If you have any other tips and tricks, please leave them in the comments. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
that rhythm.